Hello everybody, my name is Sylvain Rochon and I'm continuing my series on engineering paradise, so the writing of my second book. In this case, it's been a little while since I was on holiday. I'm back, I've reviewed another chapter. And this one is on, it's still in the section of economy, it's on defeating wealth inequality. And basically, again, this is within the framework of an ideal society where everybody gets to do what they need to do, what they want to do, because automation is prevalent. It's at the service of humanity. Basic needs are met. Goods are flowing. Everything is abundant, and so on. Things that we discussed in previous paragraphs. Now, about inequality, this is very important because it's important today. We don't want an ideal society that also has a spread of inequality, even though just in a very realistic way, not every human being actually produces or activates in society in the same way. Some people are very calm and they stay in their corner to just deal with their family life. They don't really have a wide visible impact on society. Others are very motivated to do a lot of things. So there will be discrepancies in people that are more admired and known, others that are more discreet and quiet, and so on. So when we're talking about wealth inequality, how do we keep an ideal society from breaking down into stratas that would just cause dominance issues, just like we're seeing today. Now, we did talk a bit about it, like in previous chapter, of course, with the people owning the land, right? So that's one part of it. But now we need to extend a little bit further, because even though we have tax rates that are extremely high for the wealthy individuals, so over 80% tax is what I recommend in my charter. For people that are in that tranche over $200,000, or at least the bits of income that are over that range. Even though there's that, some people are just going to climb that and go nuts. Just not because they want to make a lot of money, because that would be difficult. If you have a 80% tax rate, it's difficult to try to dominate through just the accumulation of cash. So you can't buy a land, because you can just lease it from the people. That's great. But some people may try, even though there's the tax rate. But that would be, in itself, it's a barrier. It's a problem, because as people make the effort of having a lot more net cash in their pocket, you're actually giving away a lot of it back to society, back to the system, to basic income, to back to the people, to everybody else, essentially. So the more value you create and the more income you make as you trade services and as you do whatever you want to do. Maybe these are artists, maybe professional, very famous sports stars and whatnot. Just like we have today, like some people are just go beyond what we think. They're actually contributing, because of the tax rate, they're contributing a lot to society. Now, the differences that we want to make here, because we have this, we could have this today, but there's a lot of ways to avoid the return of wealth from the wealthy to the less so, through different tax havens, for example, or tax breaks for the rich, or different ways you can kind of hide money to avoid paying taxes. So there's very simple ways to go about it without breaking any parts of the system. Number one is that you avoid entrepreneurs, the wealthy, to create corporations or different company entities just to keep cash at lower tax rates. So kind of like holding companies for cash. You make those illegal in a similar way to for the land. You can't just lease a land and not do anything with it, because that's a way to buy without buying. Right? No, you have terms to it. Well, in the case of companies, companies are things that are licenses that are issued by the state. Well, why not apply conditions to it? If you're going to invest in a company, if it's your own company, for example, it's not just to dump money in there. You have to do something with it that will eventually be of value to society, to the people. So there would be a time limit for money to kind of sit there without any activity. And this can be supervised, like in the old days, it was very difficult to kind of supervise this. You kind of do it through the audits and tax returns over years. Companies that would be very inactive, that had strange numbers, would be reevaluated after a number of years, some of them and very few of them. But with automation and artificial intelligence, you can clearly, if it's all on the system, on the blockchain or whatever, then you can clearly see companies that have no actual activities. Because we're all in this connected network of sensors and information that I described earlier. So companies have to have a meaning, because that's also important for innovation and to actually make value. Some wealthy individuals or some people with more ambition may in fact want to invest, and they don't want that to be taxed 80%, because that's energy for the company to move forward. So you want to structure it so that any personal income is taxed heavily if you're up in that range, right? But if it's inside a company that has momentum or that has intent to move forward, that has to be a tax rate that would be similar to what we're seeing today, or something like that, which is a fair tax rate, because you want the company to have steam, to grow, to have a chance. So you have to keep that open. That way, the wealthy, those that are creating a lot of value, because they don't have to, they're not working for a living, right? They're doing it for their own personal reasons, motivations, because they are highly skilled and highly sought after, whatever. They can decide to do more with that energy they've gathered, that money they've gathered, by investing in companies. And the money stays inside the company to let it grow, and that provides for the people, because you have more products, more services, more talent, more human created assets, whatever it is that is trying to fit with the demand from us humans or the systems. So that would work out great, because either way, the people that are wealthy either contribute directly financially through taxation, or they're saving on taxes, but the money goes to another cause that will multiply or exponentiate the value that they've already created or been rewarded for. So that's what I recommend we do, and that kind of balances out the super wealthy or the wealthy, because there's no way where they can kind of hide the cash and control. There's no way for them to control people. They can create new entities that provide value, so that people are happy. They have high performers that are, let's say, controlling multiple entities, but all the entities are on land that belong to the people. I mean, there's no way around it. So ultimately, the people have control, because even if a wealthy person that has 100 different companies in the same area seems like he's controlling a lot of things, but a single regulation around the terms of the land where the businesses sit or operate on can revoke all that stuff. So they have to play ball and do good for the people. Because there are some, you always risk, even though biologically or intentionally, society doesn't have any way to cause any significant stress on individuals, because we're in a system where people, the basic needs are taken care of. You still have some people that would be mentally ill or have ill intent for whatever reason, the outliers. And we want to be able to control them, identify them, treat them if they are in fact mentally ill or unbalanced and whatnot. But until then, you don't want them to run away with the system and cause some trouble and some inequalities and unbalances in the system. So it's a self-correcting system, because believe it or not, chaos in nature works very well. Nature has everything that it needs, and nature includes us, to have a balanced society where things are not equal, but they are fair. And everybody can have what they need but nobody's the regulations are minimized, and all you need to do is really to understand how we work, what motivates us. And we've touched this on previous chapters. The highest motivations for people is to reach well-being. We talked about this. So we're providing for this using basic income numbers and all that stuff. And there's the life evaluation part, which is way more subjective, because that's very much based on the individual, like how much do I want to achieve in my life kind of question. And it's going to be very different from individual to individual. Some people are just more ambitious than others, or have different ideas, different genes to do different things. And so how do you judge yourself is going to be different from person to person. So, so how do we kind of organize so that the chaos we create without creating too many rules? Or because freedom is a semi-absent set of rules. You need, if the no rules is anarchy. It's not really freedom, because then you can have all sorts of factors that can unbalance. There's a set of rules that we already have integrated, and we'll legislate some, like regulation, because we're an advanced society, but we don't need that much. If we rely on our own biology to get the life, to get to the well-being bit, and to get the life evaluation, a high optimal life evaluation for everybody. Now, a lot of it relies on exactly emotions. And emotions means motivation, because emotions is what motivates us. That's what makes us feel good or bad about our previous lives. That's how we evaluate our life, the life evaluation part. And within the process, and it's motivation and thus emotions that drive us forward. Negative emotions make us act in survivalistic patterns. Fear makes us run away from something. Disgust is designed to so that we don't poison ourselves, especially regarding food, or in some cases could be people, I suppose. To be poisoned by individuals, we can feel disgust. These are emotions that are toxic for the body, but as long as they're temporary, they save our lives and save us some discomfort. There's only one emotion, according to, I forget his name, Plutchik? Yeah, Plutchik. He devised a wheel of emotion in late 20th century. That is one of the accepted structures of how emotions kind of work. Each emotion is attached to a certain molecule, like a peptide that's produced in the brain, in the amygdala, I believe. And then there's a chain reaction of different hormones and all that stuff that makes us feel the way we feel when we have the emotion. When we feel anger, there's something happens in the memory, or in the cortex and all in the processing parts of the brain, if you will, and then it goes into the amygdala, produces the peptide that goes into the bloodstream, and that activates all sorts of hormones everywhere. Like in the case of fear, then blood's going to go to your legs, drain out of your brain, so you can't think anymore. And you have all this adrenaline in your body, and you just want to run. You run away, and you go nuts. And then you kind of wonder, like, why did I run that fast? Why? That's part of the biochemical process of survival through fear. Okay, the fear is triggered by the brain, and sometimes it's irrational, and we run away from things we really aren't threatened by at all, like the fear of public speaking. We feel the fear, but there's no rational, fear of, there's no life-threatening. There's nothing life-threatening about public speaking, but we still feel the fear because some of it is irrational. Anyway, so there's a biochemical element to it. And even though the input, like what causes the emotions from the brain is based on past experiences, memory, and things like that, that's very individual. The biochemical aspects of the emotion, what drives us to action, is very well known and universal. It doesn't matter what happens. If you feel fear, it's going to be the same biochemical chain reaction that's going to happen, no matter who you are, from which culture, it doesn't matter. The trigger may be different. You understand what I mean? There's a very clear biology. Now, if in an ideal society that we're building here in this book, we have a very low stress level, so we know that causes a high social interaction situation for everybody. Except, of course, there's always exceptional individuals that don't fit in the mold because we're all different and so on. But over 95% of the people would have the same pattern. Okay, so low stress means social behavior. It means a relaxed state, so not non-energetic and panicked. Low prone to feel any of the negative emotions, so they're harder to trigger, if you will, in that case. It's nice. Everybody's, I mean, it's a little bit like everybody's on marijuana, since that's on the topic these days. Everybody's chill. Nobody wants to hit anybody. So there's very few, negative interactions unless something actually happens that is unpredictable. So this is a society where we want to go to, where people are meditative, social. They don't want to hurt anyone. They don't want to cause negative emotions to others. It's very nice. And that's very organic, very balanced. And if there's like a feeling of one of the negative emotions by somebody, well, that's part of the environment. The rest of the environment kind of calms them down, because at the basic level, we are very civil and there's no threat to our lives in a general sense, because everybody's got money and food and AI and robots and everything around us to kind of serve, and everybody's doing what they want to do more than anything else. So it's a great environment where you can let chaos be and people be individualistic within these set rules, and things are going to kind of stay balanced in a very natural way. Now, there's one emotion, only one, that is positive in Plutchik's wheel, and that's joy. And every researcher understands that this single emotion. This one is non-toxic. You still want to have it in measured doses, because the what we actually feel, like the actual, what we call feeling, is in contrasts. So if you constantly feel joy, then you don't really feel it very strongly. You don't have a high. So it's when you come from this calm, composed state of chillness, if you will, then you can feel joy, where you feel something. Like, you know what I mean? When you watch a movie and you feel excited, you play a sport, you feel excited, play a game, and you feel excited. That's or something that your kid does or a friend does, and you feel joy. That's a contrast between the basic level and this production, this chain reaction from the emotion that gives you this feeling inside your body. Okay, but joy is not destructive chain reaction in your biochemistry. Is actually very positive, and the results of joy is very well known. Everybody knows it. I don't need to describe it. It's just exuberance, I suppose, and feeling cool, but you're still very social and all this stuff. But for a smaller amount of time, you're a little bit more selfish because you're in the moment of feeling. That's what it is. And then it goes back down to a natural state, and you feel good. And you can feel this moment of joy any number of times a day, and it won't be toxic for your body. It won't cause any issues. In fact, there are studies that show that joy strengthens the immune system. There's all sorts of good things for the body. So that's cool. We have this one biochemical emotion that is positive, that does a lot of good things. And we're setting up a society in the book that we're describing one where for almost all of the time, the negative emotions are dormant or very minor. And so what you're chasing, because you have only one emotion that feels good, which is joy, what people will want to do is to chase joy. Joy is going to be the primary motivator versus anger, fear. Fear is a very strong emotion in our current society. Fear of not having enough to eat, not enough money, fear of others, fear of their own security, things like that. Those are strong motivators, and people take decisions based on their motivations, on emotions, right? So we want people to feel joy, partly because joy, if you rate it, and I've told this before, I think, joy, like doing something for yourself has a certain level of joy. That's fun. It's fine. But somehow, if you do something that is pleasurable or something for others, joy is higher. There's people like in research studies actually will do more for others than for themselves. They receive more happiness, more joy giving to others. This is what I call love, and my main mentors call it love as well, which is that's pure love, right? When you give to somebody else, you love them. That's real love. You don't expect anything in return, but you actually do, because you get this feeling of joy if you give purely to somebody else. You don't expect reciprocity in action, but you get the feeling. So you do get the payoff from it. You do enjoy doing it. It's legitimate, it's genuine, and you get a feeling from it. And this is biology. Everybody's built the same, guys. So with this environment of very low percentage of occurrence of negative emotions and a high occurrence of positive emotions, which is always joy, then people are chasing joy, ergo they are chasing how they can give to others. Make sense? It's just a sequence of biochemical reactions that makes sense. So in anarchy, in chaos, in organized chaos, what we would be organizing, individuals would naturally, this is like 95% plus of individuals constantly would be looking for ways to give to others. And in my series, People with Purpose, I did the first season, and I did the conclusion. I interviewed 19 people, including myself, okay? And they're all professionals, all that had a long life of reflection, their professional success, and they've all told me the same thing. Their greatest joy and the reason why they do what they do, everything in their life, is to give to others, to contribute to society. They're not saying this because I do trick them into the question very easily. I just jump with the question right away about their life purpose. They tell me the story about this is what gives them the best joy. They do whatever they're doing, and each person has a different way to do it, but they do it because it's pleasing to them to give to others. Now I'm doing another season with different types of people and young individuals and so on, which you'll see soon on the channel. But it really shows this concept. People inherently want to love others, strangers, people that are close to them, whatever. But that happens only when you're not fully stressed with all sorts of bullshit that happens around you and worried. And that's where your antisocial, your sympathetic neural biochemistry kind of kicks in, where you become protectionist, antisocial, and you're trying to do things for yourself. You're no longer acting out of joy. You're acting out of anger, out of disgust, out of surprise, and all sadness, and all sorts of emotions that are toxic, that are bad for you. And it's bad for society. So it's focusing on equality, because we're talking about economic equality here, by giving people a chance to have to be non-stressed. Naturally, everything else kind of falls into place, because we're supposed to be able to balance ourselves. But if we remove all the technology, all the checks and balances that we have, and we go back to the wild, then the stronger survives, basically, kind of rules again, which is what has been ruling for the longest time. Now we have the opportunity to give ourselves a baseline where everybody has the same baseline of no stress. I've talked about this many times in the book, and that solves a lot of other things, including social interactions and motivations and behavior. Now, within all this, how do people find their life purpose or their purpose in society? Because that's also very telling in research. People want to feel comfortable, have the well-being, but their life evaluation is also based on what they actually will bring to the world. They actually say this verbally, that people are aware of this. We want to contribute to the world, and on a conscious level, I want to look back at our life and say, hey, this is what I did for others. Think about it for yourself and your family. Everybody's had that chat with themselves or with others. So how do you find what you're doing in this ideal society where people that don't have jobs, you don't need to work for a living? Well, part of it is that you'll always find people that want something from a human being, because we're social creatures. It's easy to have, in the very near future, it's easy to have a restaurant that is entirely self-served, completely automated, good food, no problem. You go there for the food. Maybe it's inexpensive, it's easy to access it, it's quick. But sometimes when you go to a restaurant, you want to have human interaction. Sometimes you just want to go for a complete meal and experience. Then maybe you do want to get served by an actual human being that has an opinion, that has a chat, that this person doesn't need to be there because it doesn't need to work for a living. But maybe this person is working there because that's their way to provide to society. They're providing a service to society, which is value because there's a demand for it. People sometimes want to go to a restaurant and be served by a person. Maybe they want an actual cook, a specific cook, even if the food can be worse than the AI, because that we'll get there. It's a person, it's a specific person. Just like sometimes you just want your child to draw you a picture, to do something for you. You want your husband or your wife or your girlfriend, boyfriend, your son, sibling, whatever, to do something, and you're sharing this human experience with them. That's value, interhuman value, that we're exchanging with each other. Got it? So it can be professional. People don't need to do it, but they can do it, and we're helping each other getting our joys, getting what we desire. Sometimes we desire something that includes human beings. And then we can have trade based on that, and then we can get paid, and then you get into everything that we discussed prior where, well, this value is based on what? And if you go to the restaurant, there's a human there. There's somebody designed the restaurant, is taking care of it. There's AI that are doing it. There's an owner to the restaurant. There's an economy behind it. So what you pay for that person also goes, some part of it goes to the restaurant. The same type of economy can exist, right? And there's money flowing to the market. There won't be a disappearance of people desiring something from other people. We are biologically, again, it all comes down to biology. Biologically, we need each other to feel good and to live. You know, part of the research, this is not part of the blog, because I do always write a blog alongside, you know, babies are known, if you don't take care of them, because there were studies in Germany in the Second World War of babies that there were too many babies, not enough caretakers in some hospitals. Babies just died for no reason. And it was found afterwards that it was the human interaction, like the connection. There's some biochemistry that happens there between human beings, right? And then we feel something, and there's a connection. And there's some biochemical compounds that go into the body that strengthen the immune system, that makes us healthy, and that is part of the connection we have to with each other. So for survival or for well-being purposes, we will always need to interact with each other. Robots can't replace that. Honestly, we don't want robots to replace that because we derive pleasure from human interaction if it's positive. And there's a specific biochemical need to have that interaction on occasion, not constantly necessarily. So we can always have this positive interaction. We'll always need human beings to play with each other and do things with each other out of joy. It's all biology. It's coded in, guys. It's not something you can decide, you know, to stop and find a good reason for it that will last very long, because we'll always go back to the basic biological drives that makes us healthy, makes us feel good. That's why we may have mechanical robots that can do anything a human do, including sex, better than any human, no problem. But we'll always want the physical interaction with the human body because of the biochemistry. Now, there will be a day where we're going to make biological robots that have the same biochemical cues as a human, but it's actually programmed to do different things. Then that's a different story, because then you're satisfying the biological components of pleasure and well-being for the body. And then you have an integration of programmed human beings, if you will, call them that for now. At least I don't know, or biological robots is probably a better term, just to distance ourselves from them. And they'll mix in, and they'll have their own motivations because they'll be programmed differently. So there'll be differences, but we could potentially have them have bodies that would satisfy our biology in the same way as a human being. But that's farther down the line, but not as far as you think, actually. But I don't want to get into that right now. I just want to keep it very, very clean, you know, robots and humans. And the point is that we can have a very healthy economy with human beings and robots and AI kind of playing together for everybody's benefit, and in particular for the human's benefit. And finding what you want to contribute to society in those circumstances is really easy, because there's demand, there's what pleases you just offering, and there's always going to be people that, just like today, they're seeking enjoyment from other human beings because biology. That's all it is. All right, so that's going to be it for now. I'm almost completed with the section in the section about economy, and getting to the conclusion of this book. So I'm really excited to finish this. It you know, by the end of the summer, I may just be done with it, and I'll be able to finish this particular series, and then you'll be able to see the book later, in a few months later. So this is really cool. So goodbye for now. I'm also going to launch the season 2 of People with Purpose very soon. I've started recording a couple of weeks ago. So ciao for now.